Let's go ahead and get started. So, hello everyone and welcome. My name is Kelly Jessup, and I'm the Assistant Director for Digital Learning here at Yale School of Management, Executive Education. Hope that you're doing well, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us this morning for Yale's CPWA prep course, Wealth Management Theory and Practice. This is one of two of our online financial certification programs. It's modeled after our successful CIMA online program, which is Investment Management Theory and Practice. Our program director, Jim Dobbs, who you'll meet in just a moment, was instrumental in creating both programs, so he knows them inside and out. Please engage with us during this webinar and don't hesitate to ask questions. Jim is very knowledgeable, and this is your opportunity to pick his brain. We may hold questions from time to time, but we will do our best to get to all of them by the end of the session. To ask questions, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and please save the chat function for any technical issues. Now I'd like to introduce our program director. Jim Dobbs is CPWA certified. He's also CFP and CIMA certified. He was a financial advisor for 25 years and ran his own RIA practice before retiring to work full-time in his financial education company. Jim has worked with different certifying bodies and universities for the last 20 years or so, helping to build and manage financial certification programs. More importantly, though, Jim has had extensive experience with the Investments and Wealth Institute, which is, of course, the certifying body. He personally helped create the CPWA certification and has served IWI in many roles, including as chair of IWI's Technical Advisory Board. Jim directed and taught in the classroom version of this CPWA course for many years and has partnered with us to bring his expertise and enthusiasm to Yale and in turn to you. You will see he's a passionate guy. He's committed to success, and he measures his success based on yours. Please welcome Jim Dobbs.
Well, thank you, Kelly. Can you hear and see me okay?
I can.
Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. Yeah, let's take about an hour here, give or take. Kelly's right. Let's make this interactive. So you just drop those questions into one of those areas whenever you think of something. And Kelly will queue those up for me and we'll stop along the way for those. And then at the end, if we have some time, we can kind of do a free-for-all of questions and answers there as well. So yeah, what we want to talk about is CPWA, the process, the certification itself, the content a little bit. Make sure you're in the right place. I'll give you some insights on like picking a certification for where you are in your practice today. Look, I guess I'm an expert. I wouldn't call myself that, but I have been doing this a long time. I was in practice for 27 years. I've been in the industry for 30 and worked with a lot of certifications through the years. So I've at least learned some do's and don'ts when picking certifications, not just for everybody else, but for myself along the way as too. First point of clarification, IWI, Investments and Wealth Institute, they are your certifying body, right? So at Yale, we provide the registered education course for CPWA. IWI in their certification rules says that candidates have to go through an education process or course. And so we as an education provider have to submit our course and they have to approve it, that kind of thing. So we provide a course, which you're looking at today, and we include test prep. The last thing I wanted to do was make it complicated when we set this up 7 or 8 years ago, something like that. Let's keep it all together. Like, let's just have you focus on the content and not worry about the structure so much. But going back to IWI, if you're not familiar with them, you do want to jump onto their website, which I've got here linked, and you'll get a copy of these slides in the next few days to a week. But go to their website, check it out. I think you'll find some good resources there. But again, I just wanted to differentiate between IWI, your certifying body, and Yale, provider of education and test prep for this certification. All right, let's talk about the certifications a little bit here. And if you have questions in terms of the differences between these, go ahead and shoot those over to Kelly and we'll tackle those. But I kind of just drew some distinctions here, and this is partly from a slide that, an infographic almost, if you will, from IWI, CFP, CIMA, CPWA, CFA. Obviously, you're here for CPWA, Certified Private Wealth Advisor. And yes, I have been around since the beginning. I was the chief architect when IWI was thinking about having a wealth management certification about 15 years ago or something like that. Uh, it is financial planning, but really targeted for those of you working with high net worth clients. Uh, Really, just about all of us, maybe all of us on the original committee that I pulled together to create this certification, we were all CFPs. But as time grew on and we became more successful, and our firms did as well, we were working with not just anybody who can meet our minimums anymore. Some of you can relate to that. It was working with 5, 10, 25, $50 million clients or families. And we just didn't see a formalized content training program out there for that externally outside of the firm. So that's why we created CPWA. So it's financial planning, but again, for high net worths. And I'm going to say high net worth is a few $1 million for a client or a family of net worth, not investable assets, up to 50 million. I mean, once you go above that, then you're ultra high net worth. And this still all pertains, but it wasn't created specifically for the ultra high net worth client. So the sweet spot here is a few million to 50 million in terms of your client net worth. CFP, of course, is much broader based, covers a lot more content because it's not specialized for any type of client that you have. That's why it usually takes much longer to earn. So CPWA only takes about 6 months for most of our candidates, according to their feedback in the survey that we give to you after the fact. That doesn't mean it's easier. It just means there's a lot less material in CPWA. I would argue it's a deeper dive for sure than what you saw in CFP land back in the day when you were studying for that, if you did. And I believe the exam is tougher on a question by question basis. That being said, you could say the CFP exam is more difficult in that it covers a whole lot more material. So you've got to cram a whole lot of information in your head to be tested on a subset of that. So those are some of the differences there. I don't think they're really competitors. I think if it's a CFP is your foundational certification for financial planning, and then if you're working with the high-end customer or client, CPWA is your supplement to that. You don't have to have a CFP background, but I think it does help. And when we get to timing and how much time is it going to take to get through the certification, I'll give you a little heads up there as well. SEMA, the sister program Kelly mentioned at Yale, that's just investments. So it's really like CFA, but for everybody other than institutional money managers and securities analysts. It's really for client-facing financial advisors, financial planners, investment advisors, and consultants. So it's kind of a nice complement there, I think, at Yale, offering the SEMA and the CPWA. All right, so IWI does have some prerequisites for earning the certification. One is bachelor's degree or one of the following. So you don't have to have one of these certifications. But if you don't have a bachelor's degree, then you would have to have one of these in lieu of your bachelor's degree. So it's not you got to have both. It's just one or the other. Pass a background check. I don't even think we would offer a program like this at Yale if the certifying body did not take that seriously. Obviously, there are a lot of bad actors in our business, in our industry. We need to do everything we can as an industry to weed them out. Certifications is one way we can do that. It's a small way, but it's one way we can do that. And so you got to pass a background check. And at any point in time, they could run a background check on any of us. I hold the certifications myself. And I think that's very, very important for us all to protect this industry and our clients. 5 years of experience in the financial field. So it doesn't have to be wealth management, doesn't have to be financial planning, could be investments, could be insurance, estate planning, any of those would work. Trust services, that would work. They are going to be the ones that make that decision on whether your 5 years in your profile or your application count. That being said, you can begin this certification process before you hit your 5 years. And I would venture a guess, I haven't run the numbers recently, but maybe 5%, maybe 1 in 20 of our candidates has not hit the 5 years yet. They're just trying to knock this out, the education and passing the exam before they hit the 5 years. And then they just have to wait till they hit the 5 years after passing the exam to use the mark. So that's okay if this is a little bit aspirational for you. We do have some other individuals in that situation, not the majority clearly, but we do have some in the program like that. All right, let me talk about the certification process real fast, and then we will see if we've got any early questions. So the process is pretty simple, but this is not like some designations out there where you just pay, $1,000 and you sign a quick form and put in your contact information, and boom, they give you login information and you're up and running. And then a weekend later, you have your designation. That's not what this is. This is an accredited financial certification. There are only about a handful of them actually on the market. So there is a bit of a process to go through this. You'll submit your application to IWI. You can link to that through our website, our Yale CPWA homepage website, or you can go just straight to their website to do that. And you'll have to fill out a pretty lengthy application, and they're going to run a background check on you. The only heads up I'd give you there is some of you have been in the business a long time, and maybe there were complaints and maybe they were resolved. Hopefully they were resolved. As long as your application matches up with the U4, if that's what they pull, if you're a bank employee, it'll be a different one. But if you've got a U4, they're going to pull that. As long as that all that information matches up, you're probably okay. Now, if there were findings against you, you're probably going to be rejected. But that being said, you're going to do the application, they're going to run the background check, and then they're going to say, congratulations, Jim, you passed the background check and you have been approved as a CPWA candidate. And then they're also going to send Yale, us, Kelly and me, and Kevin and Jamie, an email that says, hey, Jim's been accepted and he chose you. So now they've passed the ball off to us at Yale. Then it's going to take us about a week also to get you up and running at Yale. We use Canvas as the LMS for this online program. So all of that to say, it's about a week for IWI to do their thing and about a week for us at Yale to do our thing. So it's about 2 weeks before you're up and running. Once you get into our program, you're going to pass the education course, which I'll show you in a minute. And then you'll study. You'll actually spend most of your time with us studying for that certification exam. I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. And then once you pass the exam, assuming you've hit your 5 years of experience as well, they will send you licensing paperwork. You'll sign that, send that in, and they'll run one more background check on you. And then they'll let you know that you're certified and can use the mark. So that's the process, not too complicated, but it is a little more lengthy than some of the certifications out there. So I'm going to let you stare at this little honeycomb feature that IWI has about content. And Kelly, let's see if there are any early questions.
Yes, we do have a couple. Is this course appropriate for someone to learn about wealth management, or is it more focused on test prep?
Yeah, it's both. So we have an education course, and IWI is a bit unique. They don't all do this. Kaya does not do this. CFA does not. CFA Institute does not do this. CFP board does it. IWI does it. For their certifications, you've got to take a registered education course, a course approved by the certifying body to meet their requirements. And that's going to be your learning, right? So in our course, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, so I'll give you a little teaser here. You're going to spend 30 to 40 hours watching lecture videos on demand, just like if you were in the classroom in Yale and we were teaching. It's just we all went into the Yale studio and did our lessons there. And you'll watch those and you'll take notes and you'll take tests after those, just like if you were really actually in the business school there in New Haven. So that'll be your primary core learning event. And then once you finish those 30 to 40 hours and pass the course, then you'll start studying for the certification exam. And again, you will spend most of your time with us there. And in that part 2 of the program, if you will, then it's just all about the test. There's a series of videos from me going through each of these sections, saying here in the past year, they've tested more heavily on this and then that. I don't think you have to worry about this, but you really need to know these next 3 slides because something like this is coming your way. that kind of thing. So hopefully that gives you a little bit better idea of the layout in that regard.
How can Yale alumni sign up for this course?
Well, I think it's just like anybody else. So you'll go through IWI as your certifying body, and you'll have to apply for candidacy through them. And then again, just like I just explained, they'll let us know that you have been approved and that you chose Yale, and then we will plug you into the system. So I think that answers the question, but if it didn't, ask it again, and I'll try my best to tackle that one.
Okay. And to confirm, we do not get access to study materials for approximately 2 weeks from submitting the initial payment.
Yeah, and the study materials for the certification exam, you're not even going to get that till you pass the course. I don't even want you thinking about the exam until you pass the course. If you're the participant that was asking about, the training and the learning versus the test prep, in that first 30 to 40 hours when you're watching these videos in all of these sections, I really don't want you thinking about the test. I want you to be open-minded, learning, focused on concepts and applications that are important in the business, that obviously are part of the exam, but that are also complicated and helpful by having an explanation by an expert. So that's the focus. That's going to lay a really, really serious and strong foundation for you. That way, once you get into the test prep, you're ready to get into all that minutia that you could see on your exam. So, been doing this a long time. That seems like that's the best layout for most people. I think our pass rates probably confirm that. But simply put, yes, about 2 weeks once you submit your application to IWI for candidacy before you're up and running in the course. Not the test prep yet, but the course. Good question.
Okay, that is it for now. Oh, wait, we just had
All
one
right.
come in. Do you have stats on what this course does for a practice? Also, is there a peer network with those that take this course? Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
getting
a good
some.
one.
Yep.
So on statistics, I would go to the IWI website and to SEMA or CPWA. I think it's cross third party studies in each of those areas where they do have statistics. Um, I think one of the most helpful of those, especially if you're still needing to convince your manager or superior to allow you to do this and or be reimbursed for this, is compensation. So compensation is very clear in terms of the ITA third party research. CPWAs make more than CFPs, and those who have CFP but not anything else make more than those who don't in the financial planning world. So there's a sequence there, and there's some nice study there in terms of industry impact, if you will. In terms of peer network, I think the best one is, there's two things. One, there's a discussion board we have for content, but I see it all the time. People are going to reach out in the introduction section and introduce themselves to whoever else is in there. We've got about 400 to 600 people, candidates in our program at any given time. And we don't put your contact information and name out there, but if you want to, feel free to do that. Create study groups along the way. I think I just saw one a couple of days ago in CPWA, a gentleman reaching out and saying, "Hey, look, you want to do a Tuesday or a Thursday night study session with me? I'm very interested." So those kind of things happen. That's one way to do it. And then what I see is when we go to the conferences every year, and IWI has 2 or 3 a year, we try to make one at least, if not two of those a year. And so a lot of our past candidates and graduates are going to meet up at those conferences. I think that's the best way to do it, but you certainly have the opportunity to meet each other personally through the discussion board and develop relationships there. So yeah, good question.
And in what areas of the client engagement do you see the benefits of CPWA?
Yeah, hold that one because I'm going to come back to that, and I've got a specific example or two for you. Thinking about my own career. Now, granted, I was the architect of this thing, so I was already in practice for many years when I went through this as I created it. But from what I've seen for now, over 2,500 candidates coming through the Yale program alone, not to mention the 10 years that I led the program at Chicago, the in-person version of this. I think a couple of things jump out at me in terms of impact and even immediate impact in your practice. And so I'll hit that next.
Okay, I think we're good for now. Let's move on.
Okay, so you've had a little bit of time to look at this, and this is just a broad broad brush stroke, if you will. There is a longer, well, we've got a 4 and now like a 7-page version of this in PDF from IWI, and I would recommend the 6 or 7 pager. And so if you want to shoot me an email, I mean, you can get it off of our website, you can get it off of their website. It may be just easier for you to send me a quick email, and later on today, I will send you a copy of that. And I think what you want to do is, I mean, from looking at this honeycomb, you can see if this is of interest, and I would imagine that it is, but it looks a little bit like CFP. And until you look at the line by line description, and there are over 500 topics in the curriculum, I think until you see that, you're not going to know exactly. I want you to look through the line by line version, the super detailed version, and just ask yourself repeatedly as you go through that. Spend a good 10 or 15 minutes on it. And just keep asking yourself, if I learn more about this, if I learn more about this, if I learn more about this, will this help me in my practice? Will this help me serve my clients right now better? Will this help me attract new clients or a better pedigree of clients? If your answer is regularly yes, well, then the content looks like it's a match. If not even half of it looks that interesting or that helpful, then I don't think this is right for you. The money is one thing. This is not super expensive, certainly not for Yale or an Ivy League offering, but it is one of the more expensive designations out there. So I think you want to make sure you've got it right, but also it's your opportunity cost. In fact, I would argue for many, if not most of you, the opportunity cost is big because as you're going to see here, you're going to put in 100 to 200 hours, most of you, to get this certification. So you really want to make sure the content is right. But we'll do human dynamics. That's a little bit different than CFP. Behavioral finance is now included in CFP as well. It's a little bit different when you're dealing with high net worth clients and second and third generation clients. Family dynamics is certainly a heavy topic in CPWA, where it is not in my experience with most CFP programs. Now, like I was education director for both CFP board and then IWI back in the day, so I have a pretty good feel on both of those. But family dynamics definitely is more integral in a program like this. Tax, investments, risk management, and asset protection, CFP topics, but again, the slant here is in CPWA. What are the main tax challenges of your high net worth, your 10, 20, $50 million client? And what are the potential solutions that a CPA or tax expert is going to give your clients? Client specialization, your client is worth $20 million. And $12 million is wrapped up in their closely held business. $8 million is liquid or near liquid, and maybe you're managing half of that at $4 million for AUM or assets under management. Well, how can you help that client when they get ready to sell? You need to know about the entity. You need to know about the tax ramifications. You certainly need to know about asset protection in those situations, even though you're not going to be giving specific advice, most of you, because you're not licensed attorneys and or tax specialists, and or your firm says, we don't want you going there, but you need to know those issues because they are going to come up. And hopefully you're going to be involved with the other financial professionals in your client's team. Working with executives, the executive compensation packages are pretty complicated. There are some real distinctions between them. You need to know the tax ramifications, some of the investment strategy thoughts along unwinding those positions, that kind of thing. And then in CPWA, retirement's a little bit different than CFP. For CFP, most of us, probably you as well, if you went through one of those programs, it's mostly about accumulation planning. How much do they need? How do they get there? That kind of thing. there's a little bit of that in CPWA, but the assumption really is these clients are well on their way, or they've already either retired or could have retired. So it's about retirement decumulation in terms of the assets. How do you get those assets out of the retirement environments or structures in the most tax efficient way, sustainable withdrawal rates, those kind of things, and then passing those assets down to the heirs, because in many cases, your high net worth client doesn't need to live on the money coming out of an IRA rollover or 401k, that kind of thing. And they're just going to end up passing those assets down to the children or the grandchildren. And then obviously charitable giving and estate planning, wealth transfer, huge, huge, huge in CFP or CPWA land. All right, so I'll let you stare at some of these. This is right from IWI's website. Now, I think it's a nice summary of the benefits and the value that one would receive by going through and earning their CPWA certification. The one I want to focus is on kind of ties back to that question you had just a few minutes ago. I think number 3 there, bottom right-hand side, more confidence with clients. I think that is one of the most important benefits of going through and earning CPWA. And here's an example or two of that. So the tax strategies, okay, most of you can't give tax advice because you're not qualified and your firm won't let you do that. That's fine, but you want to be involved in that conversation. How many of you are like me and have some clients, or as now that I'm retired, had clients in which you're like, they have outgrown their CPA, or I don't know why they have that CPA. They are not helping. So being able to address some issues, spot issues, have conversations, discuss potential recommendations and solutions even before they go to the annual tax planning meeting with the CPA, and hopefully you're going to every one of those with your high net worth clients. Same thing on the estate planning with their estate planning or family counsel or attorney. Wow, having the knowledge and confidence going into those meetings, knowing I think I know every solution that the CPA or attorney is going to throw out there on this one or this year. And having the confidence to be able to help facilitate that conversation. Again, if you're like me, not all CPAs and attorneys drop the jargon, right? They talk in the technical speak for a number of reasons. And I think you and I can help our clients kind of sift through that and understand it. And then here's another one. One of the best values I think that you can provide to your clients is offering them, and again, we're talking high net worth clients, so they're paying you thousands to tens of thousands a year in fees, presumably. So I think it's worth this. You offer to your client, especially those that you see are struggling in the CPA and attorney meetings every year, you just make them an offer. Hey, look, Dr. and Mrs. Client, or Mr. and Dr. Client, when that's over, we'll just go back to my office, or to a restaurant or to your place or whatever, and we'll debrief, because I'm sure, just like last year, we're gonna talk about a whole lot of things. They're gonna talk the jargon, and it's not all gonna be super clear to you, and you're gonna ask some questions like you always do, which is good. But at some point, you'll probably quit because you don't want to hold up the meeting anymore, and you want them to get through all their talking points. So let's just go debrief after that. So you take your notes and ask your questions, but relax, and we'll go sort it all out after the fact. That's huge. In my own practice, boy, talk about making yourself indispensable to your client, but you've got to have the knowledge. CPWA is going to help you with that, and then that's going to breathe confidence into your practice at a whole different level. And it's really cool. It's qualitative. It's not really quantitative, but when I go to the conferences every year, talk to you guys, that one comes up probably more than any other. That, wow, now I have the confidence not only with my clients and prospects, but with those local high-end CPAs and attorneys. So I think that's one of the biggest ones. So sorry for that long wait to me answering your question from a few minutes ago, but hopefully that was worth it. All right. Let's see. Let's talk about the goals and objectives think anytime you're going into an education program as an adult, as a professional, you want to know what the program's trying to help you achieve. So we have a bunch, and we have a pretty exhaustive survey that we give to you after, not only after you've passed the Yale course, but after you've taken and passed or failed the exam. Now, the vast majority of our candidates pass the CPWA certification exam on their first attempt. By the way, you can go to IWI's website, go to CPWA, go to the exam page that they have. So like one of 12 or 15 pages under CPWA, and look up the most recent statistics. Very, very proud of the Yale candidates on this particular certification exam. But here are three of the big ones. One is we want to cover all the 500 plus topics in the CBOC, as IWI calls it, the candidate body of knowledge, which includes the core topics, those 500. So whether it's in the education session or the test prep or both, we're going to cover all of those for you. The one I'm most excited about, it kind of relates to what we just talked about, is making this practical. The theory, the law, the application is all important, especially as it pertains to the exam. But wow, if you can't walk away with this with tools immediately to plug into your practice and make a difference, then what are we doing? We're not doing something worth doing, in my opinion. So it needs to be practical. It needs to give you the opportunity to plug it into your practice right away and make an impact. So that one's the hardest one to measure, for sure, but that one's the most important to me and most of the others on the team delivering this. And then last but not least, because I was in your boat once too, earning these certifications as I was in practice with a family and all the other responsibilities that we all have. As your time grows short and you get closer and closer to your exam, it's going to be all about the exam. I get it. I was there too. You start out kind of, high end and altruistic, thinking I want to learn as much as I can, especially for my practice and get better at my job, which is great. You want to keep that going as long as you can. But as the months go on and you get towards your exam, it's going to be like, I just really need to know, I need to pass this exam. So please help me pass this exam. So yes, that is one of our core objectives. All right, a couple more slides here and then we'll stop for more questions. So as you can imagine with an online program, this is a self-study course. There's some help and I'll explain that in a minute, but it's completely online. So you don't have to travel. All the content is on demand. So we may have a live session here or there, but even if we do, and we don't do as many as we used to, because very few, even out of 400 to 600 people in the program at any given time, very few show up to a live event. They're just going to watch it when they want to. So the idea is everything is on demand here. So you're going to study whenever and wherever you want. You can download, copy, save, and print. So as long as you're not sharing that with anybody, I mean, this content is for you. You have paid the registration fee, you or your company, but for you. So just don't share it, and that's fine. And we're fine with that. If you want to download everything and put it on your hard drive, that's fine. Just don't share it with anybody. But that being said, so like the lessons, the lectures, there's a lecture that you watched online or whatever, and you're like, I want to listen to that one or watch that one again. Maybe I'm going to do that on my commute on the train. Great, just download that as an MP4 or an MP3, convert that to an MP3 for just an audio file if you want. And you don't even have to be online to do most of this. There's one exception to that. Well, one exception would be to download everything, and the other would be to take the tests, not the certification exam, but the short course tests that I'll talk to you about in a minute. Study time expectations. Now, this is a big one. And it varies, as you can imagine, because we have individuals that have only been in financial planning or wealth management for 2 or 3 years, knowing that they'll have to wait to use the marks until they hit their 5 years. And we have plenty that are in the business 20 or more years. So it's going to vary, but 100 to 200 hours for experienced financial planners and wealth managers, that's going to catch most of our candidates, 100 to 200 hours. But if you're slow or you really want to be diligent and soak up every single thing you can, and or you have learning challenges and difficulties, or you just don't test well or whatever, it could take you many hundreds of hours. And every once in a while, somebody will admit, and there's no shame in this to me, Hey, Jim, I've been in it. I'm in my 10th month out of my 12 months. We'll talk about timing in a minute. And I think I'm at 600 hours. Okay, well, that's extraordinary that they put 600 extra hours on top of their job into studying that year. But that happens. It's just not very often. And on the flip side of that, every once in a while, we'll have somebody report in, Jim, I'm 3 weeks in, I'm 5 weeks in. I just took the certification exam yesterday and I passed. And I totaled it all up and it only took me 50 hours. Okay, well, that happens too. But 100 to 200 hours is where most of you want to start in your minds in terms of planning the study hours into your schedule over the next several months. Um, Obviously, it depends on your experience, your ability to study and focus, which is stronger for some than others, test taking skills, those kind of things. But the bottom line is we wanted to create a program where you could study at your own pace, go fast or slow, or somewhere in between, like most, and that you could just move through it at your own pace and take the exam whenever you're ready. So I think we've done a pretty good job in creating a flexible schedule in that regard. All right, I'm going to let you study some details and nuts and bolts. And Kelly, do we have any other questions?
We do have one right now. I am working as a private banker with an Indian bank handling UHNIs and wish to move to bigger Asian finance markets, catering local HNIs. I don't know if that was supposed to be local or global HNIs. How will this course help me, and is this the right pick?
Yeah, good question. It depends. So with your situation, you may want to reach out to me, Jim.Dobbs at Yale.edu or Jim at Dobbs Education, and we can talk about your specifics. And that applies to any others of you online that are in that situation. The CPWA program is tax heavy, as you'll see in that long curriculum PDF that I mentioned, and it is specific to the US. So if you're outside of the US and you are not working with US clients or don't have a need to really study the US tax code in great detail, then this is most likely not the best program for you. And I can talk to you about that offline, or at least outside of this info session, especially with your regard, with your specific needs, like who are you serving now, who might kind of read between the lines in your question, who might you be serving in the coming years, and would CPWA be specific? But the bottom line is, the simple answer is, if you're not serving US clients, clients that are subject to the US tax code, this is probably not a good fit. If for no other reason, you're just going to spend many hours studying the US tax code, and it is so different in my experience with other tax codes, including in Asia, which I'm familiar with a number of them. It's probably not a good fit. But again, your situation may be more complicated than that. So feel free to shoot me an email. We'll have a Zoom or a phone call together, and or even just email and hammer that out. Good question, though. Thank you.
Okay, nothing else. Thanks.
Okay, moving on. So 72.95 US, that's the price. IWI has some discounts and scholarships, that kind of thing, periodically. So you might check on their website about those. But that 72.95 does cover everything if you're choosing the Yale program. I will caution you, I don't really like the way they've got it listed on IWI's website. The way they've got it, if you look at the comparison, like us to Chicago Booth, for example, um, is it looks like ours is more expensive, but it's really not, because you got to buy extra test prep if you do the Chicago Booth one. But anyway, that being said, 72.95 covers everything if you're doing the Yale program, including our great test prep materials. And I would say I'm certainly biased. There's no doubt about it. No subjectivity here, or no objectivity here, rather. I think we've got the best test prep by far. We spend a lot of time on it and a lot of money on it. We talk to you guys as you go through and after you take the test, as you'll see in the discussion board. We just want to make sure we're on that side of things, that we're getting it mostly right. I mean, you can never get it perfect on a hard certification exam like this, but just want to make sure that we keep our thumb on it all the time because these certification exams change. We don't have ongoing like enrollment or registration periods. So you just start whenever you're ready. If you look out over the next few months and you go, we're in tax season. I really can't do any studying. Well, don't start now. Wait till you get through season and then start. And so as long as you don't see anything like a really looming or pending in a significant way on your schedule for the next few months, then I think that's a good time to start. And as you saw before, if it's 100 to 200 hours, you should be able to knock this out in 6 months or less if you're spending around 10 hours a week on this. I don't think you need to pencil in 20 hours. That's probably pretty tough with a lot of your schedules, but 10 hours, I think that's a good mid point target for your weekly study. 2 or 3 hours a week, I don't think that's enough of a commitment. This is deep content. And if you're like me, and most of you are, according to academic research, it takes 10 minutes just to get into the content when it's deep, right? Because this is not just memorizing some things and moving on. So I think 10 hours is 8 to 10 hours is a good target for your weekly study. You have 365 days if you choose the Yale program. You can buy time, extra time at $22.50 for an extra year at a time. Nobody should even need to do that. Well, one, it shouldn't take that long to earn the certification, but I get it. Life happens, and sometimes it throws you a curveball and you didn't see something coming. That being said, you wouldn't even need to get technically a 1 year extension. You just pass the course that I'm going to show you in a minute, and then download all the test prep, and then just study off your hard drive until you're ready to take the certification exam. So even if you were in a pinch and you're like, man, I've only got 3 weeks of access left, and I just hadn't even finished the course yet. Okay, great. As you'll see in the program, just pass the course. You can certainly do that in a pinch in a weekend or two. That's not how I want you to do it, but if that came down to it, you could just do that, download everything, and then it doesn't matter. You just study at your own pace without access to our online program because you downloaded everything. So really not a big deal, but just want you to know your options there.
Jim, if I could just jump in for a second, I
Yeah.
just want to go back because there was a question earlier about the timing of, that it takes about 2 weeks once you submit your application, and then if you choose Yale, that whole time period is about 2 weeks before you're up and running on Yale. So I just wanted to clarify that the 365 days of access would begin when you actually have access to the program course site, not,
Yeah.
it doesn't start when, you sort of submit your application.
That is a great point of clarification. Yeah, you won't lose those 2 weeks. The day that you get your email from Yale at Canvas saying, congratulations, not only you've been approved, but we've got you set up, and here's how you log in for the first time. That's when your clock starts, not when you submit the application. Good clarification. Okay. So pass rates and market share, yeah, most candidates do come through us. I think yeah, I mean, because of efficacy, our pass rates are very, very strong. Again, you can go to their website and check those out. But I think it's also the format. This one's completely asynchronous. You don't have to show up on Tuesday night or, get work done within this month or that month or these weeks or whatever. That being said, while you've got all that flexibility, I want you to have guardrails and best practices as well. So you've got very specific recommendations by me in the program, and I'm even sending you through the Canvas program messages every week for your first 4 months. And we're sending you traditional emails monthly as well, just guidance and best practices. I want you to be able to know how can you move through it on a weekly basis. And once you get to the test prep, it's even more specific than that. It's on an hourly basis. You don't have to use those, but it's not like, oh, well, you just get this package, you get online, and then, you never see us again, or we never see you again. No, there's a lot of guidance on how to get through this material along the way. The biggest thing on flexibility is the speed at which you move through the process. That's going to be the big flexible part, because again, some of you are probably going to take 50 hours and some are going to take 500 hours. although most of you are probably between 100 and 200. All right, so speaking of the course and the test prep, a couple of quick slides here. So we use Canvas at Yale, which I mentioned. I think it's a great layout and the student feedback. It took a little while to get there because there's all kind of bells and whistles that you can have in any of these LMSs or learning management systems. But I think we got a nice, after all these years, I think we got a really nice setup for you. It's not a hard learning curve to get through to learn where everything is. We use Wolters Kluwer or CCH, some of you may be familiar with, for a lot of the dedicated readings and research capabilities. So that's investments, tax, retirement, estate planning. You will have access to their library, although I've downloaded specific material and created what essentially is a 2,000 plus page textbook that I created to go along specifically with the CPWA content list, those 500 topics. And that's not your primary learning tool, though, the readings. You see the custom readings there. It's your video lessons at the course level. You're going to be watching Toby Moskowitz, myself, Steve Siegel, Richard Joyner, John Nersessian, and others just go through this content, just like if you were in class with us. And then you're going to take short tests after each of those 11 sections. The tests are anywhere from about, I think, 10 to 25 questions, 12 to 25 questions each. You can take them as many times as you need to or want to. It's just our way of assessing that you're with us, you're following, you're getting something out of these lessons that you're watching. So once you pass the 11th test, you've completed the Yale course. You'll get your Yale certificate, most likely even before you take the certification exam. And now all the certification exam, and then we tell IWI, hey, Jim has passed the course. He's eligible to schedule his certification exam. They will send you information on how to do that. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then all the test prep then will populate for you in the program. And then that's where you'll spend most of your time. So if I said 100 to 200 hours, it takes you 30 to 40 hours to pass the course. So then that leaves you 100 and something hours if you're in that mid-range of going through the test prep. So the test prep is very specific to the exam. Again, we're not trying to reteach you all the content from the course. We expect that you went through those videos, you took your notes, and you laid that foundation. Now it's about the nitpicky details of how they could test you. There are pretty exhaustive videos of me, unfortunately, but fortunately, going through all those sections and all those 500 topics. This has never been tested that I know of, so I don't think you have to worry about it, but go ahead and skim this slide. These next 3 slides, very important. This is tested almost all the time according to students, to candidates. So you really need to know this concept and or application, and a couple of practice questions I've thrown in those slides. These next 2 questions are in the squishy middle. They're tested regularly, but not super heavy and certainly not super light. So I don't know, 50-50 whether you get any one of these. So these next 2 slides, go ahead and take them seriously as if you're going to be tested just in case. So it's that kind of thing. And moving through, well, it's many, many slides. I want to say it's 1,200 slides now in the 11 sections total. And each of those slide decks with my videos help you get ready for practice questions in each of those 11 sections. We have many, 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 many mock exams worth of questions, but I learned a long time ago, actually, when I was doing CFP, building CFP programs 20 years ago. The last thing I want to do in a very challenging exam is just give you a bunch of mock exams, because students, for a number of reasons, candidates will gravitate towards those first and primarily. That's not what we want here. That worked for us on our Series 7 exam and our series exams for the most part. But these exams require deeper understanding. So I need to hit the content in a different ways. Lessons, videos, these test prep summary slides and examples, practice questions, and mock exam to really let you see it several different ways and at different depths, so that really gets into your head and you understand it, not just memorize it. So that's what you're going to go through in the test prep. As I mentioned before, we do give you some kind of best practices or guardrails, 30, 60, and 90-day test prep schedules that go by week and really even hourly to go through the content list in the test prep section. Most don't end up using those all the way through, but most do. Most candidates do report, well, I started with the 60-day, for example, and that's the most commonly used one. And then I just sped up or slowed down by section as I got used to going through each of the sections. But it did, at least at the outset, give them an idea on how much time to spend in each of those sections. So a nice starter for you, and then you just kind of adjust based on your schedule and your skills going through. So that's it. It's pretty simple. Part one, part two. Part one is the education course, 30 to 40 hours. Part two is all about test prep, just really nailing down these concepts and applications in a test prep kind of way. All right, a little bit about the CPWA exam. As probably most of you know, 135 multiple choice questions, 10 are beta unscored, just like most of these certifications have, 4 hours. It's a common question, is that enough time? Well, it depends. If you're well prepared and you really went through all of our test prep material, I would say at least twice, then yeah, that's probably going to be enough time for you, and you got a real good shot at passing, unless you just get hit by the lights and you freeze or something. Real good shot. You can take it at the testing centers. ProctorU is the current provider. I prefer that one versus ProctorU, which is Pearson and ProctorU. ProctorU is the home testing one. The pass rates, they're still high for us, but they're not quite as high. And that's across the board, according to IWI, of all candidates. I think there are reasons for that. You'll see in the test prep area why I recommend you go to a testing center, Pearson VUE Testing Center. I think you're just more serious, you're more business-like, and I think that's a big reason why the pass rates are higher. And look, we've all done those now, right? Think of your securities exam. So I think that's the best way to go. Calculator policy, you do need a financial calculator on this exam, although I will submit that I don't think you'll get more than a handful at most calculation problems on this test, on the certification exam, where you need a financial calculator, where you're doing some element of time value of money or extensive rate of return or that kind of thing. The two calculators I have highlighted are the most popular, but you could go to tvmcalcs.com at the bottom there. It's a great free website by a professor out in Colorado. He even recommends calculators, including those, for different exams: CPWA, CFA, CFP, SEMA, and a couple of others. And the beauty of his website is for about 12 or 15 different calculators, you can go through the specific steps on that calculator, what button to hit next, because order sometimes does matter on these calculations. And just if you feel like you need a refresher, or you need to go get a financial calculator because you haven't used one in so many years, that is a great way to do it. Spend about an hour on his website, either before you come into our program or right when you do. That'll be a great primer for you. Should be all you need to handle the calculations you'll do in this certification. All right, where's my help? So as I mentioned before, self-study for sure. You should be able to do most of this on your own, but if you need help, there is help. First of all, since I've been doing this for a long time, I kind of know where many of you are going to get tripped up in the content. Not just on the test, but in practice, just having done this for so many years. So I can get ahead of that with extra notes and guidance and even videos in those areas. The discussion board's huge in this program, and you're going to want to use that. And I keep the best conversations that are going to help candidates in the future, kind of like an FAQ, if you will, in the discussion board, so that if you're having trouble with Gratz versus Cuperts versus slats or whatever, you can go in the discussion board, do a quick search for that, and see what people are talking about. So I keep the best ones up of those up for many, many years, because the students find them so helpful. You do have help from Canvas Tech, Yale, and Dobbs Education. If it's administrative or that kind of thing, my staff, Kelly's staff, available 8 to 5 Eastern, Monday through Friday. Canvas Tech help is basically available 24/7. So like if you're having issues with the videos. We keep a close tab on it. There's almost never any problems with those, but depending on your browser and blockers and those kinds of firewalls, depending on where you're studying, you could have issues, and you'll get help there. And then finally, ask the expert. Since we're not priced as a 4-degree program, it's not offered for academic credit either, then we have to have some limitations on the support, including content. That being said, 12 questions those are your lifelines, as we like to call them. Here, we beta tested that in the early years, and I think even 12 is probably too many, but it'll be fine because only in this program, only about 2.5% of our candidates year to year ask their 12 questions, and are told once you hit about 10, okay, you're running out of questions. Make sure you choose these last ones wisely. And again, discussion board's a great place to go before you burn one of your lifeline questions. Most of the material is pretty self-explanatory. And if you're like the other candidates, we've had over 2,500 now. I don't think you're going to have much of an issue with that. That being said, the bottom line there is if you think that you need more interaction than that, help, even tutorial help, or look, I may have 12 questions in any one of those 11 sections, let alone the whole thing, then this won't be the program for you, I'm sorry to say. Again, with the limitations that we had to put a limit somewhere. But again, since less than 5% are even asking their 12 questions, yeah, I think that's not going to be an issue for most of you. Oh, and then no limit on questions on study plans and strategies. I want to make sure you have the right plan and you feel confident in your study plan. Great program instructors. For sake of time, I'll let you go to the website. We've got all of the great practitioners and academicians led by Toby. He's terrific. I've been working with him for about 20 years at different schools and different programs as well. Michael Kitsis is on the faculty, the program faculty, Richard Joyner, John Nersessi, and a handful of others as well. I'm just happy to be on the team with people that are that great. We do take the quantitative and qualitative survey feedback scores very, very seriously. Look, we are not perfect, but we take this very, very seriously. We try to make this the best it can possibly be. So, and again, I think a lot of this is confirmed by the high pass rates of the CPWA candidates. And then lastly, as I mentioned at the outset, you can get to the application page at IWI through our website, or just go to IWI's website, and that's how you'll apply. And then here's Kelly and my contact information. Looks like we got a minute or two for some last questions, if we've got any. And again, feel free to reach out to me for the core content list. I'll send you the candidate handbook as well, or if you need to ask me specific questions about your situation, I'll be happy to help. So Kelly, anybody out there?
Not seeing anything at the moment, but as you mentioned, we do have about a minute here, so we're happy to hang on if anyone has any final thoughts or questions coming to mind.
Yeah, that was pretty exhaustive, guys. So I appreciate you hanging in there. And again, shoot questions. This is your last chance right now with the whole group. But hopefully that was informative. It's a big decision, 100 to 200 hours. Again, opportunity cost alone means you need to kick the tires and do your due diligence before you pick a certification like this. I hope it was helpful for you. And yeah, I mean, we would love to have you join us at Yale. You can enjoy that relationship for the rest of your life. There are parameters on how you use your association with Yale, obviously specifically stating the program that you went through in terms of your affiliation with Yale. Unless, as one of you mentioned, I think you're a Yale alum, so you have a different affiliation already. But for most of the rest of you, it'll be in an executive education type of relationship. And there are specifics for how you cite that in your bio and your LinkedIn and those kinds of things.
Okay, well, we are at time, so I think we'll just go ahead and wrap this up. So thanks so much, Jim, for sharing all this great information today. Thanks to everyone who joined us and for all of your thoughtful questions. As Jim has mentioned, for more information, you can visit our website or reach out to us directly with any additional questions. We will be sharing this webinar, including the recording and the slides, in the coming days. And also, just to reiterate what Jim said, we certainly hope to see you in our program, but it is a big decision, and we really wish that you find the program and the path that's the best fit for you. So thanks again for sharing your time with us, and this concludes our webinar. Have a great day.